The difficulty of FRCs in Guilty Gear Plus R has been a topic of debate recently. Today, I'm going to show you how to use Lab Monster Toolkit to better improve your timings on these FRCs. Full disclosure, I do not play Guilty Gear Plus R. Everything I have learned about this game has come from the Hoop Squad Discord, that's Sajam's Discord, so thank you to the members of that community. This will be a longer form video and a little less tightly edited. Before we start, I want to talk about all of the things I have set up. So I have Lab Monster Toolkit set up here. I've got Guilty Gear Plus R open. And I'm going to connect Lab Monster Toolkit to Guilty Gear Plus R via the frame connection, frame-based connection right there. We're going to look up the PID 22496. So 22496. There we go. We are connected now and are linked via frame locking. Okay, and we have a MIDI setup via Loop MIDI and LMMS. So my gamepad inputs make noise. Hopefully that's not too obnoxious. It will help with the training later. Okay, so an FRC. We're going to do Gunflame FRC. We're going to do 3 different Gunflame FRCs. We're going to start with a basic one and then move up to slightly more advanced things to show you how you can use this technique to improve. So an FRC is, if you look at the input window at the bottom there, it flashes during the Gunflame animation. And if you RC during that flash, you get that blue RC. You cancel out of it. Gunflame into FRC is a pretty standard meaty. And so what we want to do is hit that 2-frame window, and we want to hit it consistently. And I've probably practiced this for an hour or 2 while setting up for this video, so I'm not very good at it. So how can we get better at it? Well, let's record ourselves trying to do it. So we're going to bind some hotkeys. We're going to bind a button to record sequence, which I have to do like that. And we're going to bind a button to play sequence. I had to click into the plus R window to bind those because if plus R doesn't have focus, then the inputs are not read into Lab Monster Toolkit when you're in frame lock mode. That's a plus R exclusive weirdness. So if I press, also I unbound L3 and R3 from my controls in plus R so I can do this more easily. So you can see the window turns red here indicating that I am recording. So I'm going to start a recording. I'm going to restart at the beginning of the recording, and I'm just going to try to hit an RC. I was incredibly late, but that's okay. So I'm going to stop the recording and we're going to save it. I'm going to save this as GF FRC attempt or training. And then we're going to open it. So we're going to open the editor and we're going to open the FRC training. This one. Okay, so we've got our, this was the button that started the recording, so we're going to delete that. And this is our reset button. We're going to lower the frames here. We're going to keep the frames there. We do our Gunflame. I'm actually going to lower that to 30 frames. We do Gunflame here. This is the Gunflame. I'm going to highlight this and make all of these green so that I know. I need to use some multi-edit for that. Green. There we go. So now I know that all 4 of these are my Gunflame input. And then I'm going to... Let's see here. So this is frame 1, and then I release here, so this is still part of Gunflame. And then I have a 19 frame gap, and then I have 4 frames of doing the FRC. Now the Gunflame input realistically starts here on this button press, and then we've got what looks like between, if you add the 6 and the 19, you've got 25 frames. I've been told via Dust Loop and other people that it starts on frame 15 is the RC window, and it's a 2-frame window. So if we do some simple math here, I'm going to put a 9 here and see if that gives us the RC. So I'm going to save this. We're going to load it into the sequence player here. So FRC training. And then I can hit the play button, but it won't play immediately because, like I said, plus R needs to be in the foreground. So we're going to use the hotkey that we bound for playback, which is right here. And we do need to switch this mode before we do that. There we go. And you can see it is not the right timing. So it looks like it's late. So we're going to go back over here. We're going to change this. We're just going to move 2 frames down at a time because it's a 2-frame window. So we hit save, bring this back into the foreground. All right. So now, without too much trouble, we found it. So the question is, are we on the first or the second frame? So let's move this to 6 frames, see if we're on the first or the second frame. We were on the first frame, so if we do this on 8 frames, this should still work. Yep, so we're going to move this to 7 frames, and we're going to make this a 2-frame button press. And that is so that we can see the window very clearly in the trainer. So there we go. We now have a training example that actually performs the combo we're trying to do. So we're going to close out of this. We can clean this up a little bit if we want to, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. So, close out of this and open up the trainer. And we're going to switch this back to mirrored source inputs. Now we're going to practice doing the FRCs with that training setup that we just made. So we're going to load that sequence into the trainer. So we're going to load Gunflame FRC training, and you can see these are the inputs for the training. And we are going to start on input, what looks like 6. Nope, 7. So the reason we're starting on input 7, so let's talk about a little bit what this start input does. So we can click demo on VPad if we want. And provided this is in the foreground, it'll actually work. So if I click demo on VPad, move this to the foreground, it runs, and it runs through the actual training. But what we're really caring about is from the button press of the Gunflame to the button press of the RC, which is this gap. And that particular gap happens after I press X, which is my Gunflame button. So what I'm trying to do is make it so that this this DDR thing basically starts moving when I press this button, so I can see and hear this timing. Also, you can hear the timings with the MIDI input if you're an audio-based person, so we can listen to that again. Bloop doop. So that's the timing more or less. So I'm just going to show you. We're going to do start ignore directions, and we're going to do start on input, and I'm just going to try to hit this. So you can see this this training window moves when I press my punch button. And there you go, I actually hit it. So that time I was late. But if I'm not sure whether I'm late or early, I can go to compare inputs and actually see these are the inputs that I entered, and this is the input of the master, and you can see I am 1 frame late. So let's try that again. Nailed it. So you can see how this sort of tool would be really useful. I was 2 frames late there. Could be really useful for basically this line here and this line here are the only 2 valid frames that you can input the RC. So this tool is really useful for finding these timings and giving you feedback on if you're early, if you're late, basically what's going on with it. So just practicing like this, trying to find the timing so you can get more consistent with it. And if you feel like, dang, I really feel like I hit that, you can always look at the compare inputs. And you can see I thought I was hitting those perfectly, and I was a frame early. So that's basic Gunflame. Let's move on to a slightly different Gunflame. So I know depending on the first input but depending on the hit before the Gunflame, if you're doing Gunflame in a combo, it has a different FRC cancel window. So if I want to do 6P into Gunflame FRC, that's a different timing than raw Gunflame. You can see, again, the timing is on the bottom there. I'm not finding it off of just the visual feedback there. It's earlier than I'm expecting it to be. There it is. And that is, to my understanding, the beginning of, if you do Bandit Bringer after, if you do clean hit Bandit Bringer after, that is theoretically a optimal corner starter. So we're gonna practice that. We're gonna set up another training to practice that. So let's, again, everything is set up here. We're going to start a recording. I'm going to reset the beginning of the recording. And it's important that you try to be as clean as possible with your inputs. Don't spam. Don't worry about hitting it. Just do the inputs, and you'll find the timing in the editor. So we're going to save that recording as GF 6P corner. And we're gonna open the editor. And we're gonna open that in the editor. And as you can see, we're gonna delete these things. And then this is our reset. And I'm gonna lower this frame timing to be like 30. And this is our 6P. I'm just gonna multi-edit those and make them a color I can see. Okay, so that's 6P. And then this is our Gunflame. Multi-edit that, make it green. Call it Gunflame. And then we have a gap here, and this is our FRC. So this is the important frame that we care about editing. It's this red one because the FRC happens here, and we're gonna make the FRC 2 frames again. Okay, so let's. I think I'm way late on this. So let's make this 8 frames. Save it, and then let's also load it, the sequence, into the playback thing here. So we're gonna go Gunflame 6P corner, load it in. Move over here, hit our playback button, and change the mode to playback sequence. Playback button. All right, let me watch that again. I'm early, I think. I think I'm early. It always feels like you're just sort of subtracting 2 frames from various areas and trying to guess whether you're late or early in these. So just, keep on wiggling the frames around until you find a timing that plays back and is the actual timing the game is looking for. So we'll just keep on increasing this by 2s. I might have been early to begin with and just heard it backwards. There it is. Okay, so that's 10. Let's see if we were on the first or the second frame. Move it to 11. We were on the first frame, so move this back to 10. Okay, so this is the corner timing for 6P into Gunflame FRC. So let's add to this. We're going to add to this entirely in the editor. So we're going to delete this final input, and we're going to just add a bunch of empty inputs after here. And I'll make these all 3 frames for now. We can adjust that later. But we're going to add the clean hit. We're going to add the clean hit Bandit Bringer. So we're going to do a pretty standard quarter circle input here, and then we're going to do, let's see here, this is my Bandit Bringer button, and we're going to hold that button for like 10 frames to make sure that it actually gives me Bandit Bringer. And then we'll just add a neutral frame after. Okay, so let's see if this just works right off the bat. Okay. And it did. All right, so that input, we just nailed the input on guessing. So that gives us a clean hit Bandit Bringer, but that's not good enough for me. So I want to know what is the earliest I can hit this. All right, and we hit it on the first frame we could. So I just subtracted 1 frame from this before the down input, and this is frame 1 clean hit Bandit Bringer. So let's see how late we can do this. So we're on frame 3. I'm just going to add 7 frames, go to frame 10. All right, 10 does not give us a clean hit. So let's go to 9. Nine gives us a clean hit. All right, so from frame, what was this frame? So from holding this for 3 frames versus holding it for 9 frames, that gives us a clean hit. So let's see here. Let's add those 3 frames back to this guy. Yes, so add 3 frames here and then make this 1 frame. I want to just confirm. I'm basically trying to make it so the down input shows us the window where we can reasonably start. So that is clean hit. I'm going to subtract a frame hit here. I want to make sure frame 1 here gives us clean hit. All right, I think I'm a little bit. Okay, so frame 5. So frame 1 gives us clean hit here, and if I go to frame 8, does this give us? That did not give us clean hit. So frame 7. Okay, so this is a 7-frame window, assuming we do the Bandit Bringer inputs 3-frame, 3-frame button press for 10 frames after. Obviously, if you speed this up, this window gets bigger. You could make this frame perfect, but I think putting 3 frames for each of these inputs is pretty reasonable. You could even make these 4 frames and cut into here, but I will show you visually why we are doing that now. So let's go ahead and close this and open up the trainer, and I don't know why this is recording. Let's just clear that. I must have hit the record button accidentally. All right, so where is this? Gunflame 6P corner. Okay, so if we look at this recording now, this is our reset. The reset button doesn't show up here. And then this is the 6P, this is the Gunflame, this is the FRC, and then this is the Bandit Bringer. And you can see this basically from this down to this forward is when you need to start doing Bandit Bringer. This is your window right here. So to practice this, we actually need to start here on input 6. So the reason we need to start on input 6 is I assume we're doing Bandit Bringer, or excuse me, I assume we're doing Gunflame pretty early into the 6H cancel. So now you can see we do our 6P, which is this first input, and then we do Gunflame, and then from this point to this point is our consistent FRC window. So let's practice that. We're going to do start ignore directions, and we're going to see if we can hit this. And I need to change the playback mode back to mirror source input. Okay. I'm just gonna try to hit the FRC for now. A little early, I think. There it is. Alright, so now that I'm hitting that semi-consistently, that's the input for Bandit Bringer, so... Hey! We got it! So you can see again how this could be a training system to learn these timings and figure them out. Okay. So there it is. Okay, so we can do compare inputs, and we can see the button press here is on the 2nd frame, and this cancel is within the window for the clean hit. So we nailed it. If you're struggling with any of this, we can adjust the speed at which this scroll happens, so we can expand it or contract it. I personally feel like if it's too wide, it moves too fast for me to see, and if it's too narrow, it's much harder to see the exact frame you need to do it on. So find the stretching that works for you. Again, I will show you. I'll do it with a longer stretching if that helps some people out for the RC. You get the idea. There we go. Clean hit. Okay. So that, and you can adjust that stretching in compare inputs as well. You can adjust the grid lines. These are all things you can do. Okay, so now that we've done that, there's one more cool thing I want to show you, a more advanced input that you can do with this training system. So let's close out of this, and for this one, we're gonna do, we're gonna do most of it with the editor and less of it with the inputs. Again, I do want to emphasize that the MIDI feedback on the buttons is a great way of finding your input timings. So we're gonna change the dummy to block. There we go. So we're gonna block everything. All right, we're gonna do 2-hit light kick, or we're two-hit kick into Gunflame FRC, and we're going to do the command grab negative edge, the Wildthrow negative edge on the FRC negative edge. So to start this out, we're just going to record us just doing the Gunflame FRC with the kick. Okay, so that was me missing a kick Gunflame FRC. So let's save the recording and do call this FRC Wildthrow. All right, load the sequence into the sequence player here. FRC Wildthrow, open the editor, open the sequence in the editor. FRC Wildthrow. Okay, so I'm going to go to playback sequence in the mode there. And we are going to trim the fat. So let's delete these two things. This is our reset. So then we walk forward for 8 frames. We walk forward for another couple frames, take out this gap, so that's less time. So here is our kick. Make that purple. And then here is our Gunflame. We probably want to lower the gap between the kick and the Gunflame, but I'm not sure by how much, because I don't know 100% the right thing for that. But for now, let's just multi-edit the Gunflame input to be green, so we know that that's Gunflame. And I'm going to just take 4 frames off of the kick, save that. And then this is the FRC input. I'm just going to guess that this is supposed to be closer to 8. All right, so we're just going to go with this. Also, we're going to continue holding forward through the remainder of this, except for this last gap. So we'll talk about why we do that later. Okay, let's play it back and see how we did. And we nailed it. Okay, so that is what we're looking for. I think I actually need to run at the start, so let me add a run to the beginning. So instead of just doing a walk forward into kick, we're gonna do add 2 inputs after this and have this be like 2 frames of gap and have this be like 3 frames of forward. So this is gonna be forward, tap forward. That should give us a run. Let's see if it does. I don't believe it did. All right, so let's hold this for fewer frames. Do like, make this 3 frames and make this 14 frames and see if that gets it. There we go, there's a run. So now we have momentum, we've got our Gunflame. Okay, so now what are we gonna do? So we want to negative edge this Gunflame. So the first thing, this FRC. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make this FRC input, make this 2 frames again, so that we can hit that window. And that is a forward. Now, what we're going to do after that, actually, sorry, excuse me, what we're going to do before that. So this is where it gets kind of tricky. The inputs for the Wildthrow actually happen before the FRC, not after. So what we're going to do is we're going to, I'm clicking here to add inputs after this input, so it's inserting these 2 inputs here. And we're going to, this is an 8-frame input, we're going to make this a 3-frame input. And we're going to make this down, and we're going to make this a 3-frame input, and we're going to make this down forward. And we're going to take 1 frame out of that to make it a 7-frame input, and then we're going to do 3 frames here for another down forward. So then we're going to just do our FRC as we did before, and theoretically, if I did my math right, that should result in a Wildthrow. Well, it resulted in something. Let's see here. Am I crazy? Nope, that is Wildthrow. Okay. So if that's Wildthrow, what is this doing? So we do the FRC, we do forward, down. It may be that we're holding down forward for oh, we're holding forward here. We're doing a quarter circle, that's the issue. We didn't continue holding down forward. Sorry. Let's try that again. Go to playback sequence. Okay, so I believe the issue now is that we are holding down forward for too long. So let's make this last input more like 1 frame, and let's make this first input 5 frames. So we're just shifting where we're holding different inputs. There we go. So the issue now is that, what is the issue now? I've solved this the previous time. And I'm trying to remember the right way of fixing it. Because right now he's actually trapped in the Gunflame blocks, and the issue is we're a frame late on the FRC, so this is a pretty tight input. Okay, so if we move this 1 frame earlier even, if we make this 4 frames, what happens? I bet we don't get the FRC. We don't. Alright. I loaded up what I did earlier. I had forgotten that kick into slash was a way more consistent timing for this. So, here is that input sequence when I had loaded it earlier. I didn't have the website open. Let me try finding the frame window on this. So... it at least has a 2-frame window. You can release the FRC on frame 1 or frame 2. And it's basically run up, first hit, like first hit kick, first hit slash into Gunflame Wildthrow. So let's try this out. So we're going to do run up, and we're going to start on frame 11 for the slash.
One hour later.
1 frame off. We hit it! Let's go! So yeah, that was like 30 minutes of me just practicing this setup. It's not easy. It's not an easy setup, but hopefully you can understand how this training software can hopefully help you learn these setups a little faster than just fumbling around in the dark looking for them. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. You can find us at www.labmonstertoolkit.com or at itch.io.